How we doing? Today is June 13th, Friday, June 13th, 2025. Just doing a real estate tap-in with you for today. Kind of outside, getting a little fresh air here. As you can see back there, nice little waterfall. During I think technically it would be the second quarter of the year, Fannie Mae had some loan sales, reperforming loans, meaning that loans that, once were bad or non-performing, and then they got them reperforming, did some type of modification, as well as non-performing sales between March, April, and then one is supposed to be closing in July. And these were close to 4,200 loans. They were in about 4 different pools, 2 different companies won the bids. And so, that's just more inventory coming for those that are in the real estate note space. So we have something to look forward. And I think from what I read, there was one of the pools was seriously delinquent. Usually when you have seriously delinquent, that means that they're most likely not going to be able to be modified. People have just been, running out the clock, so to speak, and just not paying and staying in the properties. Maybe some cases, those types of homeowners have been saving, what they would have been paying, and maybe can be modified. But typically, when you get to 1, 2, 3, 4 years of not making any mortgage payments, a lot of times being able to modify those loans become more difficult. That's probably some of the non-performing inventory that we'll probably see closer to the end of this year, or probably in quarter number 4 going into 2026. And then also the reperforming, there'll be some inventory there. So I say that just to say that, if you are looking for real estate opportunities, you may want to consider looking into real estate notes. Looks like we have a nice little runway here of, of inventory that's going to be coming, down to smaller investor level. Also, I think what a lot of people don't talk about is that even people who are buying now, a lot of these people are being stretched to their limits in terms of their debt to income ratio. Some of these programs will let you put close to, will allow you to get a loan that's close to 50%, or even sometimes more than 50% of your income can go towards your mortgage. And that's very dangerous because, as we see some of the things that are happening in the economy, there may be a slowdown. Some people are saying recession. I think recession fears have kind of, increased, with everything that's going on with the tariffs and just the whole economic picture. You start to see these companies, major companies doing a certain amount of layoffs and things like that. So if that happens, if you have not prepared yourself financially to withstand losing a job for 6 months, a year, whatever the case may be, you could potentially wind up losing your home. And then I think that's going to be additional inventory, even beyond next year and maybe 2027, is that some of these people who have been stretched to the limit and then, have some type of life disruption with employment, that's more inventory that could be possibly, down the line. I just think that a lot of people, when you look at the prices of homes, especially like where I am in New Jersey, and you look at some of the areas that this is in, and then you compare that to what the median household income is. These people are being, stretched. Even at 40 to 45% of your income going towards your mortgage is an elevated level that's probably too high. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that, you lose your job. What if something happens to your car? What if something happens medically? Just life in general. Something else happens in your life that may cause you to have to put more money towards something. What does that do for your living situation? Obviously everybody's going to do everything they can to either pay their rent or to pay their mortgage. But, sometimes things happen where, you have to, make choices, and sometimes you don't have the ability to choose, making that payment on the house. So, I just think that, down the line, I think some of the things that we're seeing now, some of the homes and people that are getting qualified for these mortgages and things like that, especially when it comes to possibly multifamily, because you're relying on, rental income. And so if you don't get the rental income, somebody loses their job, has a certain life event, are you in a position to continue to make that payment while you find a new tenant and things of that nature? So, you just got to be careful out there. If you're getting approved for a mortgage, I definitely would talk to a financial advisor. And you're speaking from somebody that, I've been through it. I've, been homes foreclosed and things of that nature. So I'm only speaking from experience, is that you want to try and talk to somebody, a financial person, and, have them look at it and discuss with you, where you should be purchasing and, where you feel comfortable. It may be better just to, try to rent for a little while longer, and then there may be some opportunities in the next year or two, depending on what happens in the economy. So just be careful and, do your due diligence, have the talks and talk to the right people, the trusted people, and, before you make that decision. Because, like I said, I'm just seeing properties that, in certain areas, the sales price on them is just unbelievable. And if that's happening here in, my market, in New Jersey, I'm pretty sure it's happening, in other areas across the country. So, just be careful. Everybody have a good and safe weekend. And, my information will be attached to the video if anybody wants to talk about real estate notes, talk about seller financing. Oh, one quick thing before I go. I had somebody reach out to me that has some investment properties, single family rentals. They have some other properties as well, and we did a analysis, seller finance analysis on the properties, and it looks like their cash flow went up about 25 to 30%, and that's a nice little boost for them. And then they don't have any responsibilities for the property if you go from a rental to seller financing. And these properties were in the lower price band area; they were under $100,000. And you still saw, that type of increase in your cash flow. So if you're someone that, maybe has a property, and, a different, price range, you may want to do an analysis on it and see what your cash flow could be. See if you can increase it. If you can increase your cash flow 25-30% without having the same responsibilities for toilets and tenants and stuff like that, would that be something that you might be interested in? It's worth taking a look. So if anybody wants a, analysis of their property, let me know. They got very good cash flow in the first year. I think on one property it was about $20,000 the first year, and then every year after that it was about $9,400, $9,500 per year. And what they're getting right now is about $6,000 per year, based on their net, operating income, on the property. And then that is subject to change if there is any type of major repair or something happens in the property, or if the property goes vacant longer than what you would like it to. That $500 that, you're cash flowing each month, by the time you get to the end of the year, it could be less than that $6,000 for the year. So, really nice little bump in their overall cash flow. And like I said, no responsibility, just, collecting that check each and every month. And you still have the ability later on to liquidate, that note, if need be. So, like I said, reach out to me. My information is attached, and we can do an analysis for you. All right, take it easy.